So my name is Rob and I'm one of the directors at EPiC and I'm also a transformation coach. Back in 2003, I got introduced to the concept of Agile by some teams that I used to manage. I inherited a couple of development teams. I wanted to get them back in line with process and project management fundamentals. That was a little bit of a problem for them and they felt that I needed to do things more agile. And to me back then in 2003, it was very early days for Agile. And so I felt it was a bit of a cowboy method. I reluctantly agreed because I'd inherited this team. I reluctantly agreed to try it out. And if it didn't work, then I would expect them to toe the line in terms of the methodology that I was choosing for them to use. Fundamentally, I went into it kicking and screaming. I didn't really want to. I felt cornered and needed to do it. However, 6 months later, we delivered a number of projects. The team was, in hindsight, excellent. And the experience for me was earth-shattering in terms of the fun that we'd had in the process, the benefit that we got immediately from the stakeholder groups, and the way that we worked together as a team, and the outcomes we got may not have been what we set out to achieve, but were better than that, and delivered a much higher return on investment and a better result overall for the company as well as for the team. So from that point forward, I became, rather than an Agile resistor, I became an Agile evangelist. It's obviously changed my life. I was an Agile practice lead for a relatively large consultancy here in Sydney, and I needed some overflow extended workforce capability down in Melbourne. And so I went to market and I looked at who was available down in the Melbourne space that could help me with the customers that had satellite offices down there. And I came across EPiC. I did a bit of research into them and they had a pretty good reputation, and I called them up and spoke to Brad, my business partner now. Brad agreed to do some work with us together, and we worked on a really large program, and we helped coach new teams in this transformation. And what I found was that Brad's style and energy and just the way he looked at what Agile was all about mimicked all the things that I loved about it myself. We had a really great time working together on this client project, and ultimately I moved on to leave that organisation and to go and do something for myself. So I led some Agile transformations myself, and we happened to cross paths again a couple of years later, and it rekindled everything I loved about working with Brad and everything I loved about the EPiC brand and how they saw their role in transformational activities and how they were passionate about the people more than the process. And he asked me if I wanted to work with him again, and of course I said yes. And from there the relationship blossomed and I became a partner in EPiC, and the rest is history. EPiC is my greatest achievement outside of my personal life, of which case I would say it would be my daughter. But my greatest achievement is EPiC. I've been part of an organisation that has created amazing people in terms of their career aspirations, in terms of where we want to go, and as a collective. It's my safe place that I can come back to. It's hopefully where most people feel like it's their safe place. EPiC's purpose, which is to create amazing workplaces that people love, is being lived and breathed in EPiC. And so it is my proudest achievement from a professional sense that we've managed to create something so awesome. My strengths are my curious mind. I also have quite a lot of business acumen now, having run quite a number of successful businesses, but this being the latest one, being executives in different companies, and then being able to translate that into making a meaningful difference to people's lives in the way that we bring ourselves every single day, while still being successful in business, has meant that I can take that to my executive teams that I work with and talk to them about what is really possible, that there are other ways to look at things, that if we want to achieve these outcomes, here's how we need to bring ourselves. It starts with us. And that's a strength, because a lot of people in our industry, they talk about Agile, or they talk about the things that they should do, but what they don't have is a lot of on-the-ground, real-world experience in what these people are going through, and they're unable to be empathetic around that. So one of the things I can bring is empathy, experience, and the ability first to translate that into how do we make a meaningful difference to people's lives tomorrow while being the best leaders that we can be. The people that I work with is why I love work. The reason why I do EPiC is because I really just want to make a meaningful difference to people's lives. And I feel like we are legitimately doing that. We are creating these amazing workplaces that our clients love, that are making a meaningful difference to their purpose. The people I work with, whether it be clients or whether it be EPiCers, are amazing people. So, they want some of that for themselves. And so I get excitement out of seeing that happen for them. So yeah, that's what I love about coming to work. One of the biggest challenges that I think exist in our industry in terms of transformation is that we always expect that the transformation is going to be driven through the teams that organisations pay to do work. But transformational journeys happen from within. It doesn't matter whether we're talking with teams and we're talking about how that team collectively can make a difference or change the way that they're working or behaving or what they're delivering. At the end of the day, that isn't true transformation. That's just changing some work processes, tweaking a tool or tweaking a method. The transformations start from within. And where I work, which is mostly with the executive leadership teams, the senior leaders of an organisation, the biggest challenge I find is that they need to be vulnerable and they need to leave the ego at the door. And if they really want to manifest the difference in their day-to-day lives for themselves and their organisations, then they need to start with themselves first. And most organisations have difficulty doing that because their leadership has gotten where they've gotten because they've been amazingly good at delivery or at forcing an outcome or leading exponentially growing teams. But then they get to this point where they go, oh, we need to change. And the problem is that they want to continue in their own style and their own behaviours and their own methods of you need to change. And it's not how it works. They are a reflection of you and who you've made them. So if you want them to change, you start with you. That's the biggest challenge.